In the ecosystem of K-pop, drama is a constant, but not all of it plays out on the news. For Xdinary Heroes, a band built on a message of unified rebellion, one of their most significant and persistent challenges emerged from a place meant for community, their own fan forums, specifically from the complex, critical, and often contentious Korean platform known as Inven. This isn't a story about a traditional scandal with clear villains and victims. This is a deeper, more nuanced conflict, a fandom civil war. It's a case study in how passionate fan culture, when filtered through a platform known for blunt discourse, can create internal divisions so deep they reshape a group's entire community dynamic. How does a fandom named Villains, meant to symbolize outsider strength, handle conflict from within? The story of Xdinary Heroes on Inven provides a compelling and at times unsettling answer. To grasp the nature of this conflict, you must first understand the arena. Inven began as a powerhouse gaming forum, and its expansion into entertainment brought with it a distinct culture. Unlike international platforms like Twitter or curated fan cafes, Inven developed a reputation for fostering blunt, critical, and less idle protective discussion. It's a space where analysis often takes precedence over unwavering praise. This culture collided head-on with the unique identity of Xdinary Heroes. From their debut, the band occupied an ambiguous space. Under JP's Studio J, home to the respected band Day 6, they were promoted with a focus on musicianship and live performance. Yet they operated within the full K-pop idol system. Music show promotions, variety appearances, and the industry's pervasive visual and performance standard. This created a fundamental tension. Were they a rock band to be critically analyzed on musical merit, or were they idols who played instruments to be supported through the traditional K-pop fan framework? Inven, with its analytical leanings, became the primary battleground where this identity clash was fought. Threads dissecting live vocal stability, guitar technique, and the authenticity of their band concept were commonplace from the start. This environment of critical scrutiny, while not inherently malicious, established a tone that would define years of fandom interaction, setting a foundation where intense debate was the norm, not the exception. This culture of critique manifested most visibly in recurring, high-engagement discussions that often centered on comparison. A common flashpoint was the concept of ranking and evaluating individual members. While common in K-pop forums, these discussions within the Xdinary Heroes community took on a particular edge. Threads focused on analyzing each member's contribution to the group's sound, their stage presence, or their role within the band's narrative would generate long, heated chains of comments. The controversy here was ideological. Xdinary Heroes' core message, echoed in their name, Extraordinary Heroes, and their fandom name, Villains, championed rejecting superficial standards and finding power in individuality. Yet, a visible segment of their fan base on Inven was actively engaged in publicly sorting and judging them. The comment sections of these posts revealed a deep rift in fan philosophy. Users presenting critical opinions framed them as realistic or constructive analysis necessary for the band's growth. Those defending the members often viewed the same comments as disrespectful attack that betrayed the band's anti-perfectionist ethos. This cycle, critical post, defensive backlash, accusations of being a fake fan, created a persistent undercurrent of tension. It turned the fan community's home base into a space where celebration was often tempered by public appraisal, highlighting a fundamental conflict between a message of unconditional self-acceptance and a fan practice of constant evaluation. The conflict reached its most articulate and divisive form during the noise music debates, a controversy that perfectly encapsulated the Inven divide. With the Overload EP and the title track Haircut, Xdinary Heroes decisively embraced a heavier, more distorted and abrasive sound. The reaction on Inven was not just split, it was scholarly and fiercely opinionated. One camp engaged in detailed musical critique. Posts would analyze song structure, production choices, and melodic accessibility, with some users arguing that the pursuit of a heavy noise aesthetic was compromising the music's clarity and broad appeal. They framed their stance as concern for the band's commercial viability and artistic development. The opposing camp viewed this criticism as a fundamental misunderstanding of the band's artistic intent. They argued that the raw, overwhelming sound was the authentic expression of the lyrics, a necessary rejection of polished, formulaic pop rock. To them, calls for a more accessible sound were demands for artistic compromise. This wasn't a quiet disagreement. The highly technical and often harshly worded critiques from Inven would frequently be screenshotted, translated, and disseminated on global platforms like Twitter. International Villains, whose fan culture tends to prioritize supportive positivity, reacted with alarm and defensiveness. This sparked a cross-cultural firestorm. Korean fans felt their space for critical discussion was being mischaracterized as hate by an overseas overseas fan base that didn't understand the nuances of their communication culture. International fans felt that this public criticism was damaging and disloyal. What began as a debate about music on a Korean forum exploded into a full-blown conflict about the very nature of being a fan, exposing a vast gulf in how different segments of the fandom believed they should support and critique their artists. Beyond music critique, a more invasive pattern of discussion took hold, representing a known pathology in online fan communities: speculative analysis disguised as concern. These threads often crossed from discussing the art to theorizing about the artist's private and physical states. Two types became particularly contentious. First were threads focusing on member health and well-being. Observations from fan cams or broadcasts, a member wearing a support brace, a voice sounding hoarse, could spiral into lengthy discussions speculating about chronic injuries, vocal strain, and management negligence. Users would compile non-contextual evidence to build narratives of overwork, often moving from genuine worry to full-fledged accusation without any verified information. Second were threads dedicated to analyzing group chemistry and interpersonal dynamics. By dissecting seconds of behind-the-scenes content, users would parse body language, seating arrangements, and social interactions to construct theories about internal friction, isolation, or favoritism. The controversy here was the creation of a surveillance-like atmosphere, where normal human behavior was endlessly scrutinized and pathologized. This turned the fandom space into a minefield of speculation, where innocent moments could be weaponized into evidence of deeper problems, fostering a climate of suspicion that affected the broader community's morale. The real-world repercussions of these persistent forum conflicts were multifaceted and tangible. Internally, they hampered community cohesion. Organized fan projects such as funding celebratory advertisements or coordinating support events could be delayed or derailed by disagreements that originated in in-fan debates. Disputes over design, messaging, or which aspects of the band to highlight revealed a fandom struggling to present a united front, making collective action less efficient. Externally, the tone and content of these discussions contributed to the broader narrative surrounding the group. While mainstream media wouldn't cite forum posts, the overarching themes that Xdinary Heroes' music was divisive or that their core fan base was intensely critical seeped into the wider discourse. This potentially shaped the perception of casual observers and may have influenced how the band was covered in some analytical or niche media pieces. The band members themselves have never directly addressed in-fan. However, their occasional broader comments about focusing on positive energy or villains staying strong together were and continue to be interpreted by many fans as a hopeful appeal for unity in the face of such public infighting. This creates a poignant irony. A band antheming self-acceptance and rebellion against external judgment had to watch a portion of its most dedicated community become embroiled in a cycle of internal judgment and critique. In conclusion, the saga of Xdinary Heroes and the in-fan forums is less a scandal and more a revealing sociological event. It highlights the intense pressures and complex contradictions within modern fan culture. The band presented a philosophy of breaking free from systems of perfection and judgment. Yet, on in-fan, elements of the fandom constructed a new, rigorous system of analysis, ranking, and speculation. This conflict underscores the eternal tension in artist-fan relationships, the line between engaged critique and destructive negativity, between passionate observation and invasive speculation. Xdinary Heroes' musical journey is about escaping locks, deadlocks, and live locks of the mind. The in-fan story demonstrates that sometimes the most persistent locks are forged by the community itself, in the very spaces meant for connection. As the band moves forward with new music, the evolution of their fandom, whether it can harmonize its critical intelligence with the supportive unity the music advocates, remains an ongoing chapter in their extraordinary story.